Now let's see if it worked. Oh, I can't. On cooldown. Anyway, get to it. So we're gonna look at new builds, maybe. See, gonna start off with sorcerer. Feel some people's made. I didn't really play sorcerer during the beta, so I wouldn't really know where to begin. Alright. So they want you to take what aspects there are anyway. Increase armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage. Damage reduction. The damage of your next core skill. Barrier whenever you damage an elite. Movement speed to teleporting. Or a mastery skill cast at or above 100 mana gain a 20 to 40% increased critical strike chance. Each time chain lightning bounces off of you, gain 4 to 6 mana. Skills deal up to 10 to 20% increased damage based on your available primary resource when you cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have full primary resource. If you notice on here, it shows the dungeon you gotta run and what zone, like Pale Delve and Dry Steps, Zenith and Fractured Peaks, Stones and Skosla Glen. Anyway, Gem, going yellow for base skill damage, live, armor. Okay. And they're using Arc Lash. Let's just look at the skill tree. What's what they're running in the skill tree. Five into Arc Lash. I played a little bit of Arc Lash in the last beta. I didn't really like it. I don't like melee sword. Unleash a stream of lightning that deals 50% damage and chains between nearby enemies and you up to 5 times, prioritizing enemies. Chain lightning. I can't say that was probably the only actual skill I liked other than ice shards. I kind of liked ice shards whenever I played Dork, the little bit I played. I didn't like charged boats. I almost feel if you're on, I'd rather go spark. This is something I need to get into. Paragon board. Let me look and see something real fast. There you go. Let's watch this video.
Again, we make another tier list. Diablo 4 is launching in 1 week from now, at least of the early access, and by far the most asked question right now is, which class is the best? Well, I made this tier list already back in the open beta in March, I believe, and I have these different categories by which I rank those classes. So we have early game, end game, build diversity, easiness to play, we have the speed, fun, that's very subjective, group utility, and hardcore. And now I have sat down and updated this list again with all of the new findings from the recent months, with all of the theroycrafting that we have done, with all the people I've talked to and all that. So if you're not aware, like basically for the past like 1 month or longer already, I've just been doing Diablo 4 planner streams, making builds here, and this is kind of where we're at now. I have made almost every single thing that I kind of had on my mind, of stuff I could think of, stuff that I just discovered as I went basically. And we have a large range of builds here now that you can all find on my Discord. So if you just want to, like, you know, grab a build or just maybe check your ideas versus mine, I have spent a lot of time on this, literally hundreds of hours at this point, with preparing those leveling and endgame builds. So you have them grouped here, for example. So I think I have a pretty good idea of how everything works.
Go check out some of his builds.
My main is Rogue. This is what I have spent the most time theorycrafting, but I think I have a really good overview of all of the classes. I have played all of them as much as I could in the open betas. I had the past early access. I had, you know, again, the server slam. I played all of the classes multiple times, every single time I had access to the game. So I think I know pretty well at least the early game of all of those builds and how they will continue onwards later. While we're at it, mark your calendars. On the 30th of May, we will have all of the maxwell guides for you guys as well. Not necessarily for all of these builds here, especially when it comes to those endgame builds, but we will have a ton of stuff for you, so get ready for that. I hope you enjoy. Now let's get into the tier list. We start with the first category here, which is early game progression. So I think that this is the category that most people can reference the easiest, because, well, we were actually able to play it. Like, all of us could play in the open beta, we could play again in the server slam. So especially those people that played recently with the new balance updates, I imagine we're gonna see a lot of agreement here. So this is probably like pretty straightforward. I think that Rogue is by far the best in the early game. It's just really fast, especially with Twisting Blade, but not just that. There is other builds as well on the Rogue, and they're all just decent, fast, relatively powerful. And one big advantage that the Rogue has compared to other classes is that defenses don't really matter in the early game. So I expect this to continue at least until you hit Nightmare, at which point stuff probably gets harder and you have to, you know, try to include more defenses, you have to slow down, be a bit more tactical, these kind of things. But for rushing through the campaign and all that, I think rogues are gonna be the fastest. So this should be pretty obvious. Then we have Sorg and Necro. I think that these are relatively powerful classes. You have the Skellies, they got buffed later after they got nerfed before. So they're kind of in a good spot still. And yeah, all of the core skills kind of fine, especially Bone Spear is pretty good. You have Pulse Explosion doing a lot of work. So generally Necro is okay. And I guess Sorg is just like almost anything you choose, it just works well as well. And they have Hydra, they have the Fireball enchant, they have Arc Lash, so there's tons of options where you can just like easy peasy go through the early game content. Then we have Druid. Generally, I actually found Druid to be much improved in the server slam compared to the open beta. So I did not have any issues leveling a Druid, especially once those companions come in. So this takes a few levels, but I think it's like something like level 15 or something. You can start speccing into companions, and if you play around them properly and then, you know, do a good combo with your core skill, you can easily destroy almost everything. The main downside that the Druids have here are that they are relatively slow compared to the other classes, in my opinion. And then we have the Barb. Yeah, Barb is just like really slow start. You have the huge item scaling with all the weapons. You are relying on a lot of
That's
legendary
what I'll be
aspects that make
playing
the
as the
class good,
barb.
and this has not improved all too much, but it does pick up the pace relatively fast, especially after like level 15, level 20 or so. I would say barbs are generally in a spot where you can already start working it out basically with, especially once the ultimates come in. You have good boss damage with the ancients, for example, and it's gonna be okay from there. Then comes the end game potential. So here it's pretty much upside down of the early game stuff, I would say, almost. So if you look at this, I think that Necro is gonna be the overall weakest class. It doesn't really seem like there are a lot of really good builds on Necro. So there is Bone Spear, which is gonna be very good. There might be something like Bone Spirit. And outside of that, I don't really have too much hope of seeing like super good like builds that Bone Spear cannot simply trump with almost a similar playstyle. So this is basically what I expect there. While a lot of other classes I think are gonna be overall solid with multiple builds. For example, Druid in particular. I think Druid is actually going to be the overall strongest class. Druid has, first of all, by far the most builds. What I have here is not even complete, so we might actually add more to that, but they have so many crazy combinations, and honestly, a lot of them look very powerful. So, you know, memes aside and all that, I think Druids have so much crazy endgame stuff with their spirit boons, with their legendaries that convert skills into another category. So suddenly you open up more synergies and you can combine this with this and that, and suddenly you have like a super crazy build. I think this is what makes Druids really strong, because they can just draw power from many different sources at once by converting skills, by making those kind of combinations.
Okay.
Grizzly Rage, which can be
I didn't play Druid in any of the betas. So.
Grizzly Rage is completely busted, and yeah, there's some other things like that. And on top of this, they are very tanky. They have great defensive passives, they have great defensive skills, they are just generally all around really powerful. And in my opinion, the main downside that Druids have is the relatively low mobility, but this will also improve later on, depending on the build. Especially werewolf builds are gonna fly around the map. Then we have potentially like, you know, trample and trample reset type of builds with either trample slide or with pulverize. So there's a bunch of options that still make it a fast class, but not necessarily every build. But I think that in terms of raw power, just like, you know, walking in, one-shotting packs and these kind of things, being tanky, feeling good, I think Druid is the number one. And we have the Barb at the number 2. So originally I had Barb as the number 1 class, but they have received some nerfs, especially for example damage reduction modified, and you know, some of the really powerful legendary aspects such as Limitless Rage, Expectant, so something where you can build like a wombo combo, like
if you regenerate what makes
thing, has been nerfed. So I think they're still really powerful in late game because of their insane item scaling. They have more legendary aspects, they have more stats. They have very powerful effects as well, but yeah, they are maybe slightly behind the Druid. It's hard to say really, but I think both these classes are going to be like significantly, like noticeably stronger than the rest in the overall picture. And that being said, I think that Barb is going to also have the overall best build in the game, which is, in my opinion, Whirlwind. So this is on the side. Then we have Rogue and Sword. So I gave them both a B here. Now, obviously, Rogue is not going to seem very bad, especially early on, because of the early game progression power it has. But basically, as you progress, the content is going to get more difficult as you go, basically. And with more difficult content comes more value in crowd controls and in defenses. And while the crowd controls are very good on Rogue, the defenses are not that easily built. So this is the main reason why I think the endgame potential on the Rogue is definitely lower than some of the other classes. I think the damage is going to be just fine, the speed is going to be very good, but the defensive side is like something that holds the Rogue back. Now that being said, defenses in an RPG are also very much reliant on your capacity to play the game. So obviously a very good player is not going to have that many issues with Rogue than someone who just doesn't even have like the mechanical, like, you know, muscle memory and the coordination and the reactions that maybe someone else has. So this is what the Rogue relies on. You are a very reactive class, or you just try to toy with the enemies, and if you do a mistake, you're gonna feel the consequences. Whereas, for example, on other classes,
Like
you just
Barb, you can just
walk in and you do your thing and you don't really
get
care.
hit and don't even
So
care.
this is kind of how that goes for Druid and Bard compared to something like Rogue. And then we have Sorc. I think Sorc is going to be alright. It's going to be like an overall solid class with a bit of potential for some potentially busted builds based around enchantments. In particular, I think Firewall, Ball Lightning, those builds, maybe Meteor as well, they could definitely pop off really hard later, depending on how well you can make those synergies work, how much you can fork all those enchantments, and just completely like annihilate everything. But outside of those three, I don't have too much hope for the Sorcs. But they're gonna be like, they're gonna be okay. So it's not like they're gonna be bad and they're gonna have trouble. I think they're gonna be just somewhere, you know, in the middle of the pack basically. Not too tanky, not too powerful, but just fine everywhere. So this is what I expect. But on the other hand, there might not be that many builds that really pop off, and I also think that the power gap between builds inside the sorcerer class is going to be the biggest. So this probably also comes down to like how well you can optimize each of those builds. For example, you know, some of those really like lucky hit reliant builds such as Meteor and Ball Lightning that I mentioned. Like once you kind of like reach the critical mass, I think they can like really go crazy and go like, you know, exponential scaling. But if you don't reach that point, then they might just feel undertuned. So there's kind of like a very like wide swing and power that you're gonna experience on a Sorc on some of those builds if you don't play something like more straightforward, such as Chain Lightning, for example. So also something to keep in mind. And then we have the Necros. So I mentioned that I think they're not really very strong. I think that yeah, they have like this one good build, which is Bone Spear, maybe some other stuff as well, but for the most part is that. I don't really expect much of the skeletons. I don't think that scaly builds or minion builds that really rely on minions are going to be that great, but we'll see, maybe I'm surprised. But you can already feel that in the early levels that scaly just kind of like starts slowing down and they don't really have many scaling mechanisms. So unless they get some huge power spikes from just leveling up basically later on, I kind of doubt it. And they're probably not that crazy. And yeah, the builds in general just don't really have that much.
I haven't really messed with Necro very much. I level 1 in beta, but that's about it.
I tried to kind of amplify.
Didn't actually play it that much. I think during the beta, I spent most of my time on Barb because that's what I'm going to be running on launch. So, trying to get a feel for other builds for the rest of the classes.
The differences between classes here. So I just think that both Barb and Druid are going to be noticeably better overall once you're in the end game, once you're optimized and you have like a full build with the combo that you want, with good legendary aspects, with most of your Paragons built. So this is what we're looking at. And I think at that point, with like, you know, basically everything set up, you're going to see that those two classes are going to be better. And then the other three are kind of like, you know, somewhere behind. So this is what I expect at least. Now this doesn't mean that none of these other classes can have like this one shining super powerful build. As I mentioned, the Bone Spear, or you know, maybe on Rogue, you know, maybe Twisting Blades just it turns out that crazy in these kind of things. Maybe something on Sorc just like completely pops off later with all the synergies. But as an overall class, this is the ranking. Okay, let's get into build diversity. So I think that Druid is like the absolute winner here with lots of combinations. I already described that. They have definitely the most builds. Sorcerer as well, I made a lot of stuff here and there's definitely more to discover. So obviously like all these builds that I made are not the only builds that exist, and you can always make variations. Like the entire game is built around choices, and this includes your skill tree, this includes your paragons. You can decide to
the only reason why
a utility choice, you can add more.
I might play Druid is because of the amount of things you can do with a Druid.
Damage, more defense. There's always options to explore depending on what you need with your character right now. But in general, with like the different like variety of play styles, I think the Druid really wins there. And then the Sorc is kind of like close after that. Then we have the Rogue, which is almost entirely built around the 5 core skills, one of which cannot really be used on its own. So you basically have 4 main skills with Twisting Blades, Flurry, Barrage, and Penetrating Shot. But on the other hand, Rogue has lots and lots of situational tools, lots of choices you can make. You basically just need that one core skill, and then you have 5 skills on your bar that could be literally anything. And that is really the cool part. And there are lots of reasons to include basically every single one of those utility skills. And it's really up to you to decide, you know, how do you want to play your rogue? Do you want to be stealthy? Do you want to use the traps? Do you want to use the imbuements? Do you want to be super fast and jump around everywhere? You can use the caltrops, you can use the ultimates. And everything kind of has its own reason to exist. So that is like the great part about
What
rogue,
Rex has to
why
say
I
about
think
the
that,
tier list here in a minute.
for me as a main rogue, this class will basically never get boring, because you can just play, you know, basically the same main skill with a completely different flavor every single time. So that is the cool part here. Then we have the Barbarian. I think Barbarians are also kind of in the same spot as the Rogue, maybe not quite as much variety when it comes to supporting skills. So they have a bunch of core skills and they're gonna be built around in every single case, and we don't have stuff like the sorcerer enchantment slots or the mastery skills and these kind of things where you could like open up more synergies. There's maybe a bit of stuff like generator build potentially with lunging strike or so, but not sure how long those will really hold up. We'll see. And then it's a kick maybe, but those are like the only other like options outside of core skills that may or may not actually end up being good. And yeah, then you have like shouts. So a lot of builds are based around shouts. I think also late game a lot of builds will kind of ignore the other ultimates and just go Raptor Berserk.
This is Rex's torque leveling. Let's look at sorcerer in game chain lightning. This is just a skill tree. This isn't Paragon. Doesn't even show like armor. The spark. Only each time spark hits the primary target, it has a 40% chance to hit 3 additional enemies, dealing 6% damage. There are no other enemies to hit. Spark instead deals 20% increased damage to its primary target. Fireball and chain lightning. Frost Nova, ice armor, teleport. Let's.
Hi everyone, it's Rax, and welcome to a video that a lot of you have asked me to put together. This is my Diablo IV Global Launch class tier list. I used to make these tier lists all the time for all the previous games, especially in Diablo 3 when all the seasons would change, going over the metas and the changes and the new legendaries and the new sets, and seeing what classes emerged on top in the different categories. Happy to bring this over to Diablo 4, but one thing I want to caution on is Diablo 4 is constantly changing from all of the different testing phases.
That it is.
I have never had a chance to play the actual version that's going to come on launch. Yes, Blizzard did give us some testing opportunities recently, but it was only in patch 0.9, and I have no idea what's coming on the day 1 patch. So everything that I say in this video could be completely wrong, but I'm going to give you my absolute best shot on where I think everything's going to shape up based upon what we know so far. Before we jump into the rankings, let's quickly look at how do we derive the rankings. We're going to rank every single class from 1st to 5th, 1st being the best and 5th being the worst in a category. And there are no ties allowed. We have to actually rank them. Again, who knows what the day one patch will bring, could change everything. First, we'll talk about leveling. This is their ability and quality of life going from level 1 to Torment difficulty, and Torment difficulty is about level 70. Just because you clear the campaign and do the capstone dungeon, you still have to crawl your way up to Torment difficulty to get the actual ancestral items, so pretty much that entire process is leveling according to me. Then we're going to look at speed. The ability to speed farm their overworld events and the low and mid-tier nightmare dungeons. It's essentially how you're going to power up. Then we're going to go into the end game, and it's their ability and quality of life in pushing nightmare dungeons and bosses. And after going through this on my stream, I think some of the rankings that I'm going to give are going to surprise you. Then we're going to look at groups. Pretty self-explanatory. How desirable are they in groups? What kind of buffs do they provide, or debuffs in some cases? Then we're going to look at a casual category. How far can you get this class if you have minimal game time, minimal gear, and maybe minimal skill? And finally, we'll take all of that for an overall summary of where the classes rank amongst them all. One thing I want to call out is what we don't do is we don't add up the ranks for all the previous ones and then just sort them out like that. We have to actually think about it to come up with the overall ranking. One golden rule that I would ask everyone to follow is just play whatever is fun to you. Don't let my tier list or any resource dissuade you from playing whatever you want. Diablo IV has an army of developers that over time will make the game very balanced, probably across multiple specs. Coming in fifth, unfortunately, we have the Necromancer, but actually, I'm quite certain Necromancers are going to be fine throughout the entire game, and I'm quite certain that they are going to clear level 100 Nightmare Dungeons, so it's not as bad as it may seem. For leveling, they have one of the best builds in the entire game currently until it's nerfed, and that's Bone Spear. Bone Spear hits pretty much the entire screen, auto-applies vulnerability, and you can get the Bone Spear power out of the Codex of Power, so they are just going to plow. The bad news for Necromancers is they're very slow, they don't really have any movement skills, and their Skellies got nerfed. Yes, the Skellies got nerfed, and then they got hotfixed, and they got a little bit better, but they're still not great. So unless we get another update on day one, which I don't know if that's coming, I could really recommend them. In speeds, for some of the reasons we just talked about, they're probably the worst. Necros are just so slow at everything. It's something that Blizzard's going to have to look at going forward because in terms of mobility, they're just way slower than the other classes. In the endgame, they're going to do just fine. The Bone Spirit build. Bone Spirit has one of the best scaling multipliers into the endgame. And I think that, along with Bone Spear, is going to be able to go all the way and kill the pinnacle boss. In groups, they're not bad. They bring decrep, and Necromancers have synergy working with their friends because then they're going to get a lot of kills and they're going to get a lot of corpses, which is going to help them. The problem is, again, they don't bring anything too incredibly amazing, and their Skellies are unusable and they're a little bit slow. For casuals, I think Necromancers are going to feel very, very good. Bone Spear with literally nothing, and again, a casual player, someone that's just got no time, you don't got time to read a guide, you're probably not even watching this video, and you just want to lazily go around with your Skellies and your Bone Spear or whatever. A lot of the builds for Necromancer just work, and I think you're going to feel powerful, even though in the endgame I think some of the classes are going to outperform it in different categories. Overall, I'd put them in last. When they're launching, Bone Spear and Bone Spirit are their best builds. I think their Bone builds are way better than Blood or Summoning or anything like that. That'd be another thing for Blizzard to take a look at. And in Season 1, it would be nice if we had an actual Summoner build. In the beta, the summons were godly. I don't think they're going to be godly on launch, and they need more movement desperately. That would be huge for this class. Probably going to be a very, very big shocker here. I have Rogue in fourth, and the Rogues are kind of hit or miss. Rogues are incredibly good at some things, and I think they're going to really struggle at others. Speaking of things that they're really good at is leveling. Rogues, especially with Twisting Blades and getting the Twisting Blade power really early, if you know what you're doing, you are going to just assassinate leveling. You have 2 dashes and the imbuements, whether you go Poison to kill the bosses quickly, or Shadow imbuement for the AoE, and then the Consuming Shadows for the super high energy generation. think leveling is going to be an absolute joke for you, pretty much probably better than any other class. In the same category, the double dashes that can reset themselves and fades, and if you choose to do this, you can go ranged. Their speed and mobility is completely unmatched in Diablo 4. In the endgame, which remember is pushing the really high nightmare dungeons, this is where the bad news comes in. Rogues are just going to have to survive. You're going to have the damage, certainly, but you're going to have to stay alive. And it's going to come down to skill. You're going to have to dodge a lot of things. And for a lot of people, this is going to
That's where I get to where I don't want to play.
And some people are just not going to make it. I think rogues, as they near the end game, the end of the end game, is going to prove very hard. And I think it's going to be harder, potentially, than any other class. In groups, I have them in 5th, but honestly, I wouldn't mind bringing a rogue. It's just, rogues don't bring anything that other classes can't bring. The one thing that is really good about rogues is they'll always be in the fight. They're not going to be lagging behind like the Necromancer, but the Necromancer can finally arrive and get you with Decrepify and use the corpses. They do a lot of damage, that's true, but all the classes are going to do a lot of damage in the endgame. There's just nothing critical, it seems to me, that the rogue is bringing that's going to make me choose them over somebody else. For casuals, they're at 4. Honestly, I could see them being a little bit higher. A vanilla rogue without a guide, without knowing what to do, isn't too bad, but some of the ranged builds aren't very good. And if you don't go twisting blades with the power, it's actually a surprise.
I didn't like any of the range builds whenever I did rogue on any of the betas that I took part of. But range just felt so clunky.
Surprising how energy starved and how much skill a rogue actually takes, because a lot of their survivability, again, is from dodging, and casuals aren't going to be able to dodge very much. If I add all that together, I would put the rogues in 4th, but in their early game, without a doubt, is going to be the greatest if that's important to you. Their best builds are Twisting Blades, Traps in the endgame, Flurry, and Penetrating Shot is probably the best ranged option. For Season 1, I think the ranged options could be better, and they definitely need more defense. That's what's going to hold them back, I believe, in the endgame. Moving on to number 3, we have the Sorcerer. And the Sorcerer is pretty darn good at everything, and maybe not the best at anything, which is not a bad place to be in. Another thing that the Sorcerer can say that other classes can't is a lot of different types of their builds work, which doesn't work for the other classes. So Sorcerer is probably the best balanced class right now, which is probably why they land right in the middle. For leveling, the Sorcerer is going to dominate. You have a couple of really good options. Just Arc Lash as a generator is godly. If you pair that with Chain Lightning, you're going to crush the game. Even though they nerfed Hydra, that's okay. You probably won't level as Fire. Instead, you could level as Ice Shards. Ice Shards is really good. Some of their
I was just saying a minute ago, Ice Shards is probably the only other skill other than Spark and Chain Lightning that I enjoyed.
Other Frozen builds are lacking, as you see at the bottom, we're going to buff Frozen Orb. But they've got some options, and all of them are going to be really good, and Teleport is incredible. They also fight at ranged, so you're going to survive on bosses where other classes that have to get close are just going to die. For speeds, they're pretty good. It's kind of the same story. They're just all around a very good class. They're going to have a Pixel Pull, and then with the Fireball enchantment, they're going to be able to blow everything up. It's going to work very, very well. Are they going to be faster than something like a Rogue? No, but they will do very, very well here. It's going to be very comfy farming on a speed farming on a Sorcerer. In the end game, we have them at 4. There's going to be some builds that emerge for a Sorcerer that just end up being really good once they're properly theory crafted. On paper, mathematically, Ball Lightning looks really good. Fireball is kind of meh. Ice Shards could be really good. Chain Lightning could make an appearance. Things like that. Firewall. Firewall could be really good. So all of these are candidates which could be very, very great builds in the end game. Some of them are going to be theory crafted. There's going to be enchantment slot combinations which are going to get it done. Again, the thing that the Sorcerer has for its advantage when it gets really hard to survive is they fight at range. So once they do that, they should be able to get through everything. For groups, they're pretty good. They bring a ton of crowd control, and they bring the Fireball enchantment, which currently works if your other group members kill, which is Explosion to hit for 50% of Fireball's damage, which is very, very good at clearing out the trash. So always want a Sorcerer there if you can pick one up. For casuals, I think a sorcerer with just about nothing feels good for several reasons. The teleport feels really good. You're always at range, so casuals are gonna win fights on a sorcerer they would lose with other classes, and a lot of their skills actually work. A lot of the generators are okay, although Arglash is the best. If you pick Chain Lightning,
I don't like melee though.
fine. I think sorcerers, again, because they're more balanced, are going to feel better for a casual that doesn't really
Especially
know what
for
they're doing.
like a mage
Overall, I'm
build.
gonna put them in third. Their best builds are Chain Lightning, mostly for leveling. Firewall, Ice Shards, and probably Ball Lightning is looking really good for the end game. Season 1, as we talked about, like to see some of their frost skills buffed, especially Frozen Orb, and their conjurations as well after they crucified Hydra. Coming in second, it's Mr. 17 DPS himself, the Druid.
17
the Druid
DPS.
is kind of in the same spot that they've always been in. They're very, very weak leveling up and probably for speed farming, even though we are seeing some very nice theory crafted builds emerge like Trample Slide and Pulverize. But they're going to excel in the end game, and I think they're going to be able to stay alive. And
I might actually run a barb slide and a druid parallel with each other.
Legendary powers and synergies between them.
Or druid might be my
them in the end game. For leveling, it's the same story as always.
druid will probably be like my second one. Barb will be the first one I level, and then probably druid, and then probably sorceress, rogue, and then necro, because I didn't really find necro that fun.
Druids, vanilla druids, have a very, very rough time. Some of the best powers that you could get, like the pulverized shockwave and the tornado, seeks enemies. They aren't a part of the Codex of Power, so you're just at the mercy of what drops. If one of those powers drops for you, then all of a sudden you're just destroying if you know how to properly respec to it. But just as a vanilla druid going through, it's a bit rough. You're going to have to farm probably quite a few Codex of Power legendaries, or switch to World Tier 1 to get through it comfortably. For speeds, druids will absolutely have the damage. It really just comes down to speed itself. Trample Slide won't be too bad. You just use Trample to run across the screen and throw landslides. That's not bad. The problem is that sometimes you're going to have to go back to loot, and that's not fun. Pulverize will do great with the Shockwave, and that's going to be one of their best speed farming builds. But again, it's the movement in between that is nowhere near as good as like a Sorcerer's Teleport, or let's say a Rogue with the double dash.
Yes.
In the end game, they're going to do incredible. The Pulverized build is going to absolutely smash. Trample Slide will be good. Tornado will be good. Maybe Shred will be good. We'll have to see. They're definitely going to clear the end game, and they're probably going to do it a lot easier than most of the classes. In groups, they're extremely desired. They have some incredible buffs. They can apply 70% damage reduction or reduced damage from enemies, and they can give you their Cyclone armor, which also mitigates against physical damage and things like that. So druids are going to be one of the ultimate classes to keep you alive, and they're just going to hit really hard. You absolutely want one in your group. For casuals, again, the vanilla druid experience, if you're not following a build guide and you don't know what to do and you just pick some random skills, it's just not going to work. It's not going to feel good. Kind of the same thing in the end game. They come up.
That's one reason why I have not played a druid, because I didn't play a druid in D2. So
online when you connect all the right builds and legendary powers together. I don't think a casual not watching a guide is going to be able to put it together very well, and that's probably going to put them in dead last. But overall, I put them in number 2 mostly because of their ability in the end game and in group play. Once a druid does come online, they are going to destroy everything. It's what all the signs are pointing to. Their best launch builds are Pulverize, Trample Slide, Tornado, maybe Shred will get there in the end game, and the Z Druid, which is a support druid. The Z stands for 0 damage, meaning they just support the group. There will be support builds in the game, and I think the Z Druid is looking like one of the best ones currently. Season 1, we definitely need a better leveling experience. That would bring the druids rank even higher, and they need more speed, kind of like a necro problem. And finally, my vote for what I think is going to be the best class in Diablo IV on the launch is the Barbarian. But this is a little bit deceiving. The Barbarian is essentially getting carried by one build. They nerfed a single build here, which is Whirlwind. It would send barbs tumbling down the tier list, and they're going to be in really bad shape. For leveling, I think they're just the worst. There is no great option. I have theory crafted Barbarian and played Barbarian more than any other class. It's just really bad. There's no real way to solve the problems either. You can get the Hoda power, which makes it tolerable. There's nothing for upheaval. There's really nothing for double swing. And you could just go vanilla Ren. But the problem with Ren is it's a frontal cone with almost no coverage, no AoE. You have to essentially be in melee range and skill shot everything, even with that. So it's really not good news for leveling for Barbarians. It doesn't get good until the end game. For speeds, they have Whirlwind, and once Whirlwind comes online, when you have your infinite shouts, Whirlwind destroys the game. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and
looking forward to it.
Incredible, unique powers, which are going to just dominate. I don't know if you guys can hear Callie drinking water in the background. Man, she's thirsty. In the end game, I think they're going to be the best. If you have a fully powered, assuming full power, it's going to be like Pulverized Druid versus a Whirlwind Barbarian. But if you can get everything, if you can get the Grandfather and you can get the unique gloves, and you have your full shouts online, Whirlwind is just going to crush everything for you. Another thing is you're always dealing damage while you're moving. It does kind of suck that you have to get in there in melee range, but once you move away, your bleeding damage is taking over, and you can dodge most of the things, and Barbarians are just very naturally tanky. I think just with Whirlwind alone, they'll get through the endgame no problem. In groups, they're probably the best. If you spec'd a Druid fully for groups, they could potentially outshine the Barbarian, but the great thing about the Barbarian is the Barbarian already takes all the group stuff mostly in their builds anyway. If I'm playing Whirlwind, I already take all the shouts and pump them up, and I'll give them to you all the time. So I can do massive damage while giving you a ton of utility, which is why the Barbarians are so great. For casuals, again, not following anything, the leveling experience is going to be very rough. Most of them will end up probably just going for spin to win Whirlwind, and that will be a great option for them. Once they slap on a couple of those powers, it will start to do work for them. And it's kind of hard to go wrong as you get further in the tree. When they take some of the ultimates, like Call of the Ancients, it will start to carry them, and they will feel very tanky. So they should do okay in Barbarians, with Barbarians after the leveling process. Overall, I'd put Barbarians at number 1. Their best build by far in the endgame, by a huge margin, is Whirlwind. And then Hoda's good for leveling along with Ren. We're trying to see if we can make the Thorns barb work in the endgame. We'll have to theory craft that. And a support barb, I think one day may definitely be a thing. For season
always
1,
a Z barb.
Leveling experience, and we need more options than Whirlwind. And may God have mercy on our souls if Whirlwind is nerfed on day 1. I don't know what we're going to do.
Oh, that would suck.
Here is a quick summary sheet of how all the classes broke down in the end, if you'd like to take a moment and pause the video and reflect on it.
So you're saying Rogue is the best level, Barb's the worst, but the second best on speed, best on the end game and groups, which is good for me because that's what I'm going to be maining. And then Stork is the easiest casual. I can see that being the easiest casual one. I mean, overall, Barb. Hey, kudos for me.
Here's the overall rankings. Well, that concludes my Diablo IV global launch class tier list. Anyone who has been in my channel for a long time has probably seen this video like 10 times over. So hopefully it has preserved the allure that we've had over the many years of doing this. For anybody new, I'd be interested to know, what did you think of this tier list? Do you think I'm just completely wrong and stupid and I got no idea what I'm talking about? I have spent a lot of time theory crafting and trying to figure out what is going to be good across the board. But we'll have to see how it all shapes out. And that day 1 patch, I'm telling you, I truly, my hand to the sky, I have no idea what's coming. So anything could change, and honestly, that kind of makes it a little bit exciting. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Many more videos are coming, and wow, it looks like the game's coming out in just a few days. I can't believe it. Thank you.
All right.
Hi everyone, today I want to
Look at this video.
Hey guys, in this video I'm just going to go over what I think are the 3 best Barbarian starting builds, and I'm pretty sure they're also probably the 3 best in-game Barbarian builds. I haven't actually played the in-game closed beta that a lot of people have played, but I don't really see how it's going to be anything different, judging off everything that's been kind of data mined. But anyway, we'll go through each one. So we'll start with Whirlwind build. I'll just kind of go over the trees. This is just for the first 50 levels, no Paragon stuff like that. And then kind of like the here you can target farm from Codex stuff. And some of the itemization type stuff like that. So Whirlwind, you're gonna go Lunging Strike. This is pretty much the most convenient
Movements. Still, I mean,
whatever, because it has like a built-in little mobility mechanic, kind of teleports you to the mob. Still generates good fury. So Lunging Strike. Whirlwind, you're gonna rush Furious Whirlwind, so you'll be like 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. Eventually you'll switch to Violent Whirlwind when you want the raw damage, but the dot mechanic, even at 1 point, just rushing it is really good for trash mobs. It pretty much instantly kills them all. So this is like, it'd be like 1 point Whirlwind, 1 point Enhanced Whirlwind, then Furious Whirlwind by like level 5 or whatever, level 6. Then you probably dump Whirlwind more until you can get Rallying Cry, but eventually Pressure Point. This is good for vulnerability.
yep.
With Lucky Hit, I'm pretty sure Whirlwind is actually the best core skill for applying Lucky Hit because it hits so frequent. Even though it says 25%, I mean, it hits multiple times a second versus like 50% on Hoda or 20% on people, double swing, whatever. But Pressure Point, very, very good for Whirlwind. Eventually you'll take some of this stuff. This will be like later. Mostly just going to go for the main skills, but we're going to full dump into Rallying.
I'm about to. Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Yep. PT. Okay. Yeah. They explode. Do hot. Okay.
Cry Unstoppable. I'm pretty sure every single part build just uses this, all the exact same 3 lines, so you'll notice that consistency across all these starting builds. There's some choice here for this tree. You can tailor it to your liking, but it's either Warcry or Leap. I think Warcry is slightly overrated early game, so you can go a Leap angle, which I do that in some of the other ones. You can just use that on the Whirlwind build. They're kind of interchangeable. So it's either Warcry or Leap. I don't think you go both. It's one or the other. Since I'm double shouting here,
I agree.
since these Booming Voice, and then Raid Leader, this will give you a lot of healing. So some amount of sustain is good outside of potions.
Thank you for the follow, Deep Blue.
Berserking, like I said, Fury Generation is going to be really good on all builds. So, more Fury Generation, Rallying Cry Fury Generation, and then this while Berserking conditional. Eventually, we'll want Swiftness. You don't get that right off the bat, but 12% movement speed, 4% per point is pretty good. Hamstring.
Faster you go, the more mobs you kill.
We tap into crowd control, damage multipliers and slowed multipliers, that kind of stuff that you'll find on weapons and gear. All I have to do is put 1 point here. If you're not using this and you need to bleed a target, you can just change your weapon expertise or whatever, which you'll get later in the game.
I think
like level 15 to 20 or something like that.
Yeah, the two-handed weapons apply bleed.
You can just set your weapon expertise to a
And its sword.
which automatically applies bleeding every time you hit something, and then
Yep.
you get this conditional synergy. So you'll see this a lot across all bar builds where they're taking this, and that's the reasoning, to gain the damage benefits from crowd controlled and slowed enemies that you'll be finding on your gear. Death Blow is extremely good, I think, early game. Basically, it just replaces your generator, unless it gets put on cooldown, but as long as you are killing white mobs in one hit, basically you're getting over double the fury. You could also use it as a berserking generator, that makes sense as well. You can also put more points if you really want to.
Never really used Death Blow during the beta.
We're just using it to generate fury, and then we're using it for another purpose. We would normally rush this like 1 point, 1 point, and then put at least 1 point here. So what this does is, after you use a weapon mastery skill, which Death Blow is, causes your next core skill, aka Whirlwind in this case, to apply vulnerable for the next 2 seconds. The thing is, you can snapshot this, so as long as you have this, you Death Blow, or maybe playing Steel Grass, but basically use a Death Blow. This will trigger your next core skill to apply vulnerability, and then for that entire duration of that Whirlwind being channeled, it will apply vulnerability to everything that you hit on the first time it does damage to that target. I don't believe it will last the whole, like if you're hitting a single target, it'll just keep reapplying vulnerability. I think it's only for that first tick. So that's why we have this, and while we're still taking pressure point, because if it did apply the entire Whirlwind channel, which I didn't test, but people told me that it won't like have 100% of time if you play this way, so you still do pressure point, I believe. Definitely is very, very, very good on trash mobs, because you're going to pretty much apply vulnerability to all of them instantly, and it's crazy, crazy good. So you want that.
Looking forward to it.
You could also use Call the Ancients. Call the Ancients on the 3rd point has a built-in Fury generator, which is really nice for early game. Fury generation is really good. But Wrath of the Berserker also gives you Fury gen from up to Berserk. And it also has the second that gives you 30% increased Fury generation here as well. So Wrath of the Berserker or Call the Ancients both are good. We're using this just because Whirlwind has a lot of stuff to make it crit more often than other skills. So taking this. You could also actually Whirlwind with a bludgeoning weapon, and since we're consistently applying vulnerability, this is quite good as well. But that's kind of a different thing. So here, I'm not sure. I just took Walking Arsenal because we are using multiple different skills. So let's say we're Whirlwinding with our 2-handed slashing weapon, maybe we're lunging with our one-handers, and then we're Death Blowing with our 2-handed bludgeoning weapon. So we are consistently swapping weapons. The only
it is true.
It only lasts 6 seconds, so you're probably ideally not wanting to Whirlwind on a target for more than 6 seconds straight before kind of going through pressing all the other buttons at least once again to reapply a full buff of Walking Arsenal, 45% more damage when they're all up. Ideally you would use Unbridled Rage, but I don't know how realistic it's going to be in like the early mid game to.
For your end game, you swap to that when you have the actual Fury generation.
I don't think Unconstrained is that good. You could use this, but Gushing Wind is the only one you wouldn't use here. But I think Walking Arsenal on the average is probably what you want here. If you have crazy good Fury generation, maybe find some legendaries or whatever, maybe play Unbridled Rage. But I think eventually you want to play Unbridled Rage. It's basically what the choices between these two. If you really want to be lazy, you just play Unconstrained, I guess. But I think Walking Arsenal in general is the safest because you are using a lot of buttons. Also, if you are playing Leap Slime, you can attach a different ability to that, like I said earlier. You want to play the Leap Slime route. So that's pretty much Whirlwind's skill tree. I didn't fill out every single legendary power here. I just took the ones that I think are making a significant enough difference that are worth it to target farm. All of these are farmable from dungeons. So this one is kind of, I think every single build in the game probably actually uses this. It's kind of silly how good it is. It's basically just 50% more armor, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess 25% on the low roll, but it's still very significant. So tells you where each one of these are farmable in the game. So this will be your Fortify generator. You do need something that generates Fortify. It's mandatory, I think, on, it's not even I think, it's mandatory in every single bard build, probably on every druid build as well. This is pretty nice. It's just free damage. For Whirlwinding, this guy pretty much will spawn instantly, like I said before. Lucky hit on Whirlwind is extremely good. Very, very good. There are things you could farm here for this slot if you really want to, but they don't make that much of a difference. And you'll probably find some stuff anyway, so these are just the things that I think are significant enough to farm. This just extends your berserking. It's really good while you're Whirlwinding through mobs if you have berserking up, so it'll help extend the duration of your berserking. Very good, worth farming. This thing, you want to put it on one of your 2-handed weapons because it's going to give you a lot of crit chance. It does require you to channel it for a while, so good synergy there with this 30% more damage after you spun.
Yeah.
Seconds. So ideally, eventually, you have enough Fury generation to spin for more than just a couple seconds. Like 5, 6, 7 seconds is pretty good. Expectant is basically just auto attack a couple times, and then your Whirlwind snapshots, like I said. So Whirlwind, 30% more damage, pretty good. Doesn't matter what the roll is that much. You just would lunge in this case 6 times, and then your you'd lunge 6 times, and then your Whirlwind's going to do 30% more damage for the full channel. Ghostwalker aspect, I put it on the amulet. It's pretty good. It's just movement speed, and it lasts quite a while.
Unstoppable in 4 seconds after your 10 to 25.
Unstoppable, and then even for 4 seconds after that, you get even more movement speed. Pretty nice. Mobility
Yeah.
2 second per Fury shout thing. Works on all your shouts. It stacks up on each one.
Yeah, I think the first thing I want to do after I complete Act 1, because I want to get to something new. Already completed Act 1, 2 different betas. Rush Act 1, and then start farming legendary aspects from dungeons that are available in the first zone, which I don't think there's very many for Barb. Then progress on to Act 2.
2 shouts here. I don't think challenging shout is worth it to use early, but in game eventually, I'm sure it's pretty much a mandatory skill because the skill is crazy. It's just the uptime is too bad in the early games. I'm using challenging shout, I'm using the other 2. Aspect of the Umbral, this thing synergizes with Hamstring like I was showing you before, and we're using like a 2-handed sword or whatever here. Here I have a 2-handed axe, but we just pretend like we're using a 2-handed sword here or whatever, so axe and swords are probably the best. But basically you will crowd control everything that you hit with this build, and you'll be gaining resource Fury because of it, so very good. And then we have Edge Master's aspect here, which just makes your skills do more damage based off of the basically you just want to get a full resource bar, full Fury bar before you start spinning. Full Fury bar, it'll snapshot all this stuff, it'll take the highest value, whatever, and then you hold down your Whirlwind. If you do shout during Whirlwind, it should break your channel, even though it doesn't look like it. Just basically, once you start spinning, you don't press any buttons, and then you're ready to spin again, you shout, essentially.
Yes.
So, get your Fury up, get all this stuff set up conditional, all these little buffs, shout, and then start spinning through mobs, basically is the gameplay. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is really easy to apply with Whirlwind, so we want vulnerability here, because vulnerability will work on bosses where like slow and crowd control doesn't really work on bosses unless they're like staggered or whatever, which we're probably not meeting that threshold anyway. Damage reduction while fortified. I think fortified is mandatory. It's broken. It's really good. You have to use it on every bar build. So we're stacking fortified, investing more into it. We just have armor. Two-handed axe, two-handed sword is what you kind of want here. Vulnerability, like I said, very easy to apply, so we want to take advantage of that and make sure we're bleeding all of our targets, which you can just make your weapon technique, whatever, here into two-handed sword. So that's that. That's pretty much starting Whirlwind build. It's not my #1 go-to, but I think it's pretty good. This, if you just want to spin the win, whatever, it is pretty nice. It's easy to play. Alright, Hoda. You'll see a lot of consistencies here, and you'll see maybe some weird things that maybe I did that other people don't think. But I'll kind of go over my thought process. So, this is Hammer of the Ancients. My generator here, like, we probably would use Lunging Strike early, but Hoda has a huge problem.
Alright. I want to... Barbarian Paragon board. I'll do that. Build planner. I have a build made. I think it does make sense to do that. It makes sense to do that too. go that route. That looks good. That Paragon board. I've tinkered with it a little bit, but not too sure of myself on it, to be honest. So, start from the beginning. Willpower, strength, physical damage. And we take the 10 physical damage, 4% life, and then the bonus 10% physical damage if the requirements are met. Which that just means 200 strength, and that's like not just Paragon board, that's your gear included. So, you know, obviously the Paragon board's giving us plenty of strength, but your gear will also. Which, as a bard, I think the Paragon board has more. You know, you tend to go for more strength, so the ones that require strength isn't that big of a deal because you're more than likely going to get it from the board. With life, physical damage, strength, willpower, strength. These are all for this, so you need 40 strength within the radius of this red. Now, you gotta think. This glyph already upgraded. When you first get them, you gotta level them up, so it's not gonna look like this when you first get to the Paragon board. Yeah, you just. What I like about this though is customizable for everybody. No one's Paragon board is going to look exactly the same unless you just follow someone's guide, which, to be 100% honest, this was someone's guide, but then I used it as a reference and made my own. So, you know, still builds, you don't gotta be 100% unique. Because I don't really have a clue about the Paragon board. I was just following videos, learning how to do it, and then came up with my own using advice from other people. What the game's all about. So our first legendary node's Hemorrhage. I mean, since I went with Bleed I actually changed this because I didn't have it as Hemorrhage. I had something else. I can't remember what it was. But since I went with the Bleed on Whirlwind, I'm constantly adding Bleed. So I figured having that as my first legendary would be nice. Because it makes them take 12% more damage for as long as they're affected by Bleed. And then damage over time, I'm pretty sure applies to the Bleed. I'm not 100% sure on this game. I know some of the other games I've been playing, damage over time is for the Bleed effect and stuff like that. So that's why I went with, damage over time and stuff like that. Physical damage, because almost everything is tagged physical damage. So, and then just, make your way to the next tree, taking nodes that you need for some of your yellow glyphs. So far they all need strength and dexterity, so you can get dex on the way, grab what you can. And then when you get to a new board, you just look at this one was Blood Rage, so the only bleeding enemy has a chance to grant berserking. I'm always applying Bleed with the Whirlwind, so and this one grants 192% bonus damage to all magic nodes within range, and then the additional bonus deal 8% increased damage while building two-handed weapons. It's not at the 40 strength. Like if you go over here to this one and look at it, I don't think it has a 40 strength either. Maybe it does. Yeah, it does. This one probably does too. But you don't have to get the additional bonus. Just the regular bonus should be, you know, efficient. So like the 5% damage to bleeding enemies, that's getting a bonus from that. That one's getting a bonus. That 5%. These don't get a bonus from it, but still more damage to bleeding enemies, damage to elites, and then this one over here is 10% more damage to bleeding enemies and more damage to elites. And then if you have enough dexterity, you get another 10% damage to bleeding enemies. I went with pretty much like a bleed build all around. And then 4% damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding. So, you know, that's a like all-time damage reduction. And then if you get enough willpower, which again, this isn't accounting for what gear you're wearing. So as you're getting gear, you know, if you get some willpower gear or just all stat gear, you might hit that 360 willpower, and then they'll give you another 4% damage reduction. And then obviously the legendary node, which is why we went this way. And then just taking stats that are relevant to the glyphs that we have, or just trying to get to the next node. And then this one I took Carnage. So while you're berserking, your critical strike increases your attack speed by 2% up to 8% for 6 seconds. And one of these helps give berserking, I can't remember. Maybe not. But with your, you know, the skill tree, you're getting berserking that way. So it's just going to help your attack speed. It just makes you lucky, which the attack speed will help with your, you know, lucky hit, and faster you attack and faster you kill, you know. And this one, 5% more damage while berserking, 6% more damage to elites, and then another 5% damage while berserking if, again, you get the requirements for the willpower. And then you just take, I took the damage to elites because, you know, made sense to me. But, you know, great thing about the Paragon board is you could go up here and take this glyph socket and socket a glyph in it and take these. Because, I mean, this wouldn't be bad. Reduction from close enemies. I mean, you're whirlwinding, you're in the middle of the mobs. That'd be good. More berserking damage, but we didn't go that way. We went this way. And we'll just take the rest of the nodes we need to get over here. And this board, I do believe it, yeah, Warbringer. Didn't actually go get this one because it's too far out of the way and just didn't seem worth it. May change my mind during, you know, practical application of it, but for this, it just didn't seem worth 12% maximum life for all these points. But you get an extra Fury. Fury is always nice, so it may be worth getting out of this tree, using them points to go up this way and get that. But this glyph we used a blood feeder, so for every 5 dexterity purchased within this range, you deal 7.2% increased damage to bleeding targets. And then if you get the additional 25% dexterity, the additional bonus, which you're going to because you want to get, you know, every 5 dexterity you get 7.2% increased damage to bleeding targets. So make sure you get all the dex in this area. Get the additional bonus. and for the additional damage for the original bonus. Same thing with 10% physical damage, 10 strength, and then another 10% physical damage if the requirements met. That's just again, all the skills are tagged physical damage. So, and then this one I just picked up because a little bit resist all is always nice. And then if you happen to get the willpower index through your gear, that's another 4. So what's that? 8, 10, 12, 14 resist all. That's a little cluster of nodes to get. And I don't think I actually went for, no, I did go for legend. Okay, so we went back down to the same square over here and used wrath, so more decks. But this one, every 5 within range makes your core skill deals 16% more damage, 16.44. And then the additional bonus is
I forgot the end of that. Had that. Oh, I also forgot.
Plays it in my headphones, so it scared the crap out of me. What are you up to, man? There's a bunch of new ones in there too. I also changed out my follow alerts and stuff like that. So let me go in here and test them, make sure they're working. Yep. Oh yeah, work. I feel you. I've been working on my new desk, and then we had the races the past couple of nights, so we went down to the racetrack. Haven't been getting home till about 10:30 at night, 10 or 11. I was gonna take the weekend off from streaming, but wanted to mess around with the Paragon board and look at some builds. Still messing around with it. Oh yeah, I finally finished the story on my warrior, so I'm gonna start another character and try to get through it on him. I still gotta finish it on the Inquisitor, but I've been putting in a lot of hours on there though. I think 84 hours in the past like week. I mean, well, it's not actually the past week. That's probably the past 2 weeks. But 84 hours in the past 2 weeks, probably more accurate. But yeah, I got that new follow alert, and then it's the same thing for like if someone what's the sub. I got it set up for a lot of the stuff. Final Fantasy 7 themed. I couldn't pass it up. Are you gonna be able to play on the first, or you gotta work, right? Can't remember when you said you got off, like if you had any time off to play or not. Well, it's technically the second, but with it being a global release, for us, it's going to be on the first. It's Thursday at 6, if I do believe. Now, if you're the first, I mean, unless I'm completely wrong, but let's see. I don't know what that was. It just popped up. Let me see. I want to say. I want to say for us it was the it's technically the first. Yeah, for North America it's the first at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 6 for us. It should have went off. I didn't even get a feel on my activity feed. I see where it shows that you are now, but weird. Yeah, it should be the first at like 6 p.m. for us is when it launches. Well, I was saying, you know, Thursday night I'm gonna be playing until I leave Friday for our vacation, and then when we get back that Sunday, I'll play some more then. If we wouldn't have already paid for it, I probably wouldn't even go this weekend, but we had already paid for it, so it makes sense to go ahead and go. Now I'm kind of curious why that didn't actually go through. It's not even showing up in my activity feed for some reason. Weird. Yeah, I mean, have you looked at the Paragon board any for D4? Or any of the builds? Okay, that worked. Yeah, that one worked. It's weird. Thank you. We'll have to get with you one day and we'll have to go. We'll have to definitely hang out Thursday and play together. You're gonna be on. I think I figured out the issue though. I had it in the generic, but I didn't have it in the tier. I'm still learning how to do all this stuff. But yeah, I've also Made a whole bunch of new channel point redemption too. I don't know if you've seen all of them. A bunch of new ones in there. What class are you gonna play whenever it comes out? Nah, I figured you'd be playing Necro. Yeah. Go back to D2 style. All we ever played was Necro. I mean, I've always played Barb. But... Curious if I need to keep these physical damage over time, because I don't know if the bleed, if it counts as physical damage over time or if it's just damage over time. Oh yeah, melee necro. I mean, I played a little bit of the necro during the beta, but not as much as I did Barb or any of the, you know. I think I played Barb the most, obviously, and then Necro, and then a little bit of Rogue. Yeah. Don't think I need these physical damage over time nodes, because I don't know if that counts for bleeding. I do know I want 25 dexterity within this glyph for the extra fury generation. And I'm not too sure about the physical damage over time. I don't know if it counts for bleed damage or not. Oh, I looked into it. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I'll send you a I'll send you a picture of like an axe you can use for a reference, if that'll help out any. My phone's linked to the computer, so. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get rid of these physical. Yeah, physical damage over time. Well, I keep my phone linked to the computer because that's normally how I text back. You know, if I'm texting off my phone, I'm normally actually texting off my computer. It's just easier for me to type than it is to sit there and try to use these clunky hands on the phone. I like the damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding, because you probably weren't here and everyone over their skill tree. I'm doing the whirlwind with the 40% of its base damage is bleeding over 5 seconds, so I'm always applying bleeding, which is why I'm going for the bleeding nodes and the Paragon board. X. In just a minute. I mean, I've seen the specs. How much you want for it? Oh yeah, well, this is like it's the Paragon board. Once you get 50, you start unlocking points into this, and it just gives you additional stats. Here, let me save my We'll do a new one. All right, 1 second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, once you get 50, you get to Paragon board. You know, you got your original skill tree that you level up. All fine, dandy. If you played the beta, you at least know what this looks like. Actually, looks like this. I prefer this view better. I wish you could do this in the game. That'd be so nice to change the view to look like this. But then once you get, you know, the 50, you get the Paragon board, and then you just start putting points in each node. Like you got your normal nodes, they're just stats, and then you got your magic nodes, which some are stats and some do, you know, extra physical damage, extra life, and then you have your rare nodes, which, you know, they do the same thing, but they give you a bonus if you have an additional. If you meet the requirements, like this one, you have to have 200 strength, but that's not just like strength that you get from the Paragon board. It's also off your gear, and you know, so if you don't get enough for whatever rare node you're trying to get from just the Paragon board, this build planner doesn't incorporate, you know, gear. So the way I built mine was, you know, you just go for what you think you want. And then when you get here, you get these little glyphs that you can put special rare nodes in. I mean, I tinkered with it probably for an hour today or last night. Yeah, I won't say it was last night. I don't know that much about it either. So you just, you know, you put whatever glyph you want in here, and from what I looked up, these glyphs that you put in the nodes, you can level them up like you can your gear at the blacksmith. So like that random node I just put in there, the red outlines of radius, and if you look on here, the additional bonus, you have to have 25 dexterity within that radius. The way I understand it, it starts off small, and as you level it up, the radius gets bigger. So this is giving you a general idea of what the max radius is, so you can go ahead and plan for the future on the Paragon board. So like, okay, you know, yeah, I won't have the radius to get, let's say, this node right off the bat, but once I level it up all the way, that'll be in the radius. It's pretty much the way I look at it, or, you know, how I've seen it anyway. All right, get back to my build. There we go. So on this one is the gear that I would, you know, all of this gear is just from running dungeons. It'll unlock that way. A couple of these aren't. Like that one, you're gonna have to just hope for it to drop eventually. The chest piece you get from Forgotten Ruins and Kechistan. And then the gloves is one that you gotta farm for. It's a drop. And then this one comes from progressing through the campaign in dry steps. This tells you where, you know, they come from if they're not just a drop that you have to get, which is nice. So as you know, you can either go straight to them dungeons and complete them dungeons and throw these legendary aspects on some of your random yellows to help, you know, complete the story a little bit faster or whatever. And then, and you know, I got all this stuff for this guy. I'm gonna work on what I would call a build for all the classes this week. I'll have one for all of them because I do plan on leveling all the classes eventually. But thank you for a follow. That spare chunking boy. There you go. I'm gonna assume you're a bard player. Spear throw from D3. Hopefully. But my build is probably not very good compared to other ones, but you know, that's my take on it. So I'm probably about to redo this because I want to try to go for this legendary node that gives me 12% of my life is fortify, because that'd be nice. Because with Whirlwind, you're always using all of your fury. So, and if I get these magic nodes, that gives me more fury. And these are just critical strike damage, which are good, but however, there we go. I want all of them because it gives me damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding, which I'm always applying bleed, so that'll come in handy. You can never have too much life. I'm still not gonna be able to make it over there. Now I don't know why I went the other way with it, but I still think getting the extra fury and life from over here is better than the critical strike damage. Oh, I can get it that way. I can get one more point to get that. Yeah, additional fury and life from over there. This one requires 40 strength, so I don't need that intelligence. I don't know why I picked that one up. That's looking like a complete Paragon board to me. Yeah, I thought I had a node earlier whenever I said that while berserking. Yeah. So killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant berserking, and then if I'm berserking, my critical strikes increase my attack speed. And luckily they let me save this because there is no way I would be able to remember any of this for when the launch happens. I want to show you that too. So we'll save that. And then another thing I meant to show you earlier, like when you get to the point that you're gonna make a new board, you can click. You get to choose a legendary node. So like on my other board, I went with hemorrhage first because I want the additional damage for mobs being affected by bleeding, because my whirlwind's always applying bleeding. But you're gonna have the ability to rotate the board. So like if you didn't like the layout of how it was before, you can rotate it to try to get to different nodes sooner. Which, to be honest, I didn't really know about until after I'd gotten halfway through the route I'd taken earlier, so I probably could have min-maxed it a little bit better. But that'll be okay. And then this website already has, some in-game builds. It's just skill trees, it's not Paragon boards. So, like, this is someone else's point of view on their in-game whirlwind build, which is similar to mine, but a little different. I went with the bleed, and I went with lunging strike and not frenzy, just because of the movement skill from lunging strike. I prefer it. And then changed a couple other things up on it. But, that's pretty much how I got my build. Like I took, I looked at 5 or 6 different builds, and then also went with what I did during the beta, and didn't have full access to all these skills, but I did pretty decent, or I enjoyed the beta. And then one that I would been meaning to do is I didn't even level up a druid at all during any of the betas. Never even touched them. I don't know what the boons do or any of that stuff. Just that. Yep. Bunch of different builds. And at first I had, life and the armor ones, and it's actually going to be better to do damage reduction while fortified, because I am fortified quite a bit. This is one I made and changed. I didn't like it. And then I don't know if you've seen the uniques. Like, here's the uniques you can get. So we'll change it to barbarian uniques. There. And the way I understand it is you are limited to 2 uniques, so like a weapon and 1 body armor type of unique. Like, you can't dual wield uniques, and you can't have boots and gloves. You can only have one or the other. I've not even looked at any of these for the build to see which one I would prefer for which one I want to, farm, but obviously Steel Grasp is not going to be one because I'm not using that skill. But and then if I got the one where Frenzy's maximum stacks by 2, I would just swap from Lunging Strike to Frenzy, because Frenzy isn't bad. I just prefer the movement ability off of Lunging Strike. Now this is one I really want, where the whirlwind explodes after it ends. And then I am using Death Blow, so the unique 2-handed mace wouldn't be bad. I mean, the lucky hit. Whirlwind's probably the best skill for Barb that has lucky hits, so this hand's probably the best one I can see. 10-20% damage reduction. In addition, gain 4 ranks to all skills. That's like can't go wrong with an additional 4 ranks to any of your skills you already have. One thing. I forgot to turn my music back on. I was watching a tier list video from Rax earlier and I forgot to turn the music back on. I know the Butcher's Cleaver would be kind of cool to get just because, you know, killing the Butcher and actually getting it, but the grandfather and the bracers would probably be a 2, or gloves, I guess what they are. Be 2 uniques I would prefer to get. But as far as the rest of them, I haven't even, like I said, I never even played Druid in the beta, so I have no clue about Druid. You're going Necro, so we can look at Necro uniques. I don't know how Necro is since they nerfed it last beta and then rebuffed it in the middle of the beta, so of course explosion consumes up to 4 additional corpses around the initial corpse, dealing X amount of increased damage with an X larger radius per additional corpse. Yeah, I know Billy was he played Necro and did just fine. I don't think the nerf was that bad. This one wouldn't be bad, because Bone Spear is, you know, OP as it is anyway. Leaving behind an echo as it travels that explodes, dealing X amount of damage. That seems like it'd be pretty good. Let me see. Let's check out someone's Bone Spear Necromancer build. This is some random person in Discord. So barrier, which that's common in almost every build I've seen. Bone storm damage to the enemy, gain barrier, so 2 barriers. That's pretty good. Bone Spirit deals increased damage based on distance traveled. So far, 2 of them were actually aspects you can get from dungeons. Enemy corpse that has a 20-30% chance to spawn a blood orb, which that's the one that you have to farm. You don't get it from a dungeon. Unstoppable, that's not bad. Skills deal up to 10-20% increased damage based on your available primary resource when you cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have full primary resource. Huh? So that one's like really good because it makes them vulnerable, which it's in dry steps. You just gotta complete the campaign and you get it. Getting essence whenever you're hitting a vulnerable enemy. It's good. That one goes well with, you know, splintering aspect, but this is one you gotta farm. I don't like using any you gotta farm for any of my initial builds because the odds of getting them as you're leveling, you know, it's not like the first beta where they had the rates increased. And then, you know, corpse consuming increase the damage of your next core skill. Same amount of gems, and then they're choosing to sacrifice all the skeletal minions and just have a bone golem. Which, I mean, this one wouldn't be bad for the additional 15% damage to vulnerable enemies because you have the splitting aspect on your aim. Well, you just have that aspect in general. And thank you for the follow, PWA. And then 5% critical strike chance. I think I would go for the 15% non-physical resistance, but that'd be better than.
What's up?
Not much. How's it going? Yeah, I know crit's big for it, but getting extra resistance off the bat would be useful also. I mean, if you're leveling and you know. Black Desert, I haven't played that in a few years. Yeah. It's been a while. I mean, I've played it before, but it's been a long time. Let's see. You planning on playing any Diablo 4? Oh yeah, me too. Oh, I'm so excited. It falls the day after my birthday, so it's like a birthday present to me. Got a little cold at the races. Didn't get that bad. Not as bad as the past couple of nights. I mean, I don't know. I think leveling the resistance would probably be better, and then towards the end game, swap to the 5% critical strike chance. But I don't know. That's, you know, personal preference. Let's see what they did for their skills. Now there was a pretty good wreck at the races. You know, during their Oh yeah, I seen that today. And they did it really sneaky. They didn't actually put a post out or anything. They just changed the terms of the race and put that line in there saying that anyone who got the pre-release beta don't have, you know, they don't qualify for the race, which, you know, I can see, you know, but personally I think they should just push it to season 1. But I mean, experience is, you know, knowledge is a gain. You know, if you play the game for 2 weeks longer than anyone else and you know how to get to end game, it could help them. But I'm the type of person where I'm gonna play it on softcore, learn the game, and then I'll go back and play it on hardcore, which is how I'm gonna do. You know, first initial playthrough is gonna be on softcore. Bone splinters. Okay, I was trying to remember what Bone Splinters was because I only played Necro on the first beta. %1 chance to fire 2 additional projectiles. But yeah, at the races they had a little bit of a. I almost had the car flip all the way over on its top. It landed on its side, put the front end of the car that hit it completely off, and then the side of another car beside it. It was a pretty good wreck. Over at the dirt track, right where you guys used to live. I mean, no one got hurt. I mean, everyone was fine. It's just there's probably about 15, 16 cars in the race. They went Bone Splinters with Bone Spear, which makes sense because they went the vulnerable route and the gear. Oh, yeah, I don't like Wayne either, but yeah. Which race were you watching? BWA? Yeah, my father-in-law is a big fan of NASCAR. He actually took my oldest son down to Talladega. I want to say it's probably 5 years ago now. Maybe longer than that. They go to him quite often. I see you getting on Star Wars. Yeah, I know. If I didn't like Barb so much, I'd probably make a Necro. But oh, how much you guys finally wake up? I figured you were sleeping. I got my Paragon board completed for the bar build. I'll have to show it to you later. Oh, I can imagine, especially driving all the way to the Renaissance Fair and back after being awake all night, because I didn't get off Discord until about 3. And you're still on well after I got off. And of course, they went with Corpse Explosion. I didn't see in the gear, they didn't have the aspect for when you consume. Oh wait, they're not even using that skill, are they? Blood Mist. Yeah, they're not even using Blood Mist, so I don't know why they went with Corpse Explosion. I've tried World of Tanks in the past, but I wasn't any good at it, so it's fun. It's just I was never any good at it. Most enemies take 6% more damage and deal 9% less. I didn't realize the Cryptified cursed the area. I thought it was cursing just like a mob. That makes that make more sense. So it slows them and makes them take 20% less damage. The enemies hit while afflicted with that have a 10% chance to be stunned. and then 50% chance to reduce your active cooldown. That one would be nice because, you know, get your cooldowns reset. Surprised they didn't go with any skill on this one, like Bone Spirit or Corpse Tendril. Yeah, more cooldown. I don't know, I may have to give Necro a second chance. See. Okay, Bone Storm. Okay, so this is like Bone Wall or whatever it was called in D2. And damage reduction, critical strike chance, more damage reduction. Yeah, okay, that makes sense why they sacrificed the Skeletal Warriors and Skeletal Mage, because increases their bonus by 60%. Now it makes sense for that 5% critical strike chance at the early game, because it's also getting 60%. I say early game, this is close to level 50, but that's you're gonna get level 50 before you even complete the campaign. I think, I'm not too sure, but I mean, considering, granted it was beta and there's a level cap and we just farmed the first zone over and over and over, but as easy as it was to get 25, I figure we'll get 50 before we complete the campaign.
This world has been wasted on the crusades of the unworthy.
Tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Tuesday. I was thinking, well, technically, yeah, tomorrow. That's Monday now. Yeah, she has it Tuesday. Tuesday and Thursday this week. Alright. They don't have a Paragon board set up.
Would you like to know more?
Well, I am learning more every day, but I'm forgetting more every time I learn more. Usually how it goes. The more I learn, the more I forget. Let me click it. Rogue's fun. I made a rogue last beta, got 20. I think I did that in like less than 2 hours, got 20. For some reason I can't. Here, I'm just gonna create a build. My builds. Yeah. Well, that's what we're doing. I've done the barb one earlier, or it was like this morning. I mean, I think I went to bed about 6, and then I got up like 9, and then did a little bit of Paragon board stuff, and then went and got the table saw from my dad and cut the boards from my desk and started working on that. And then we went to the races, or I went to a birthday party for my niece. Got my youngest daughter from the birthday party because that's where she was at, and then we went to the races. I'm pulling what you did yesterday. I got like 3 hours of sleep last night, and then I've been up all day. But this is the Paragon board. Now this is for a Necro, which is ironically what you're starting, I believe. So it'll benefit you, so we can work it together. Yeah, I didn't play it the second beta, but the first beta I played it quite a bit. I actually made a necro first in the first beta before I did a barb. But I don't know, hopefully it'll be better at the actual launch. Let's see. Necro likes intelligence. I'm gonna go for the willpower though, just because some of these nodes require willpower. But if you haven't seen the Paragon board, you know. Yeah, I know you played the Bone Spear one in the beta, but you know, to be fair, we didn't play much of the second beta. We just got to 20 and killed a Shava for the mount cosmetic, and that was about it. But yeah, you take the normal nodes for just the base stats, and then you got your magic nodes. So yeah, pretty much. I mean, a 2-day, like the fact that they ended it on Sunday at like noon was a buzzkill to me. I don't know if this board is different than the board I did on. I want to say it's different because, yeah, the starting board's different for each class. I don't know if you looked into any of the Paragon board stuff, but the rare nodes, you get a bonus if you have X amount of willpower, dex, strength. But when you're making your board, don't look at that number because it's not accounting for your gear, because you can't. You can do legendary aspects, but you can't actually put gear in, so you could have what you need in just the gear alone. So we'll work this out and see what we can make. The 5 willpower. One second. Turn my lights a different color. Let's see. I don't know what we want to put in this first node though. Actually, I'm just gonna put anything in it for the moment. I need to see what stats we got over here. So we have willpower, a little bit of dex, strength, more willpower. All right, we don't need thorns. This is a bones build, so we gotta look for one of these is going to be useful for a bone. Sacrifice your skeletal mages, so that one's going to be useless. That's blood. You still have a golem, so that one's not going to be useful. That one might be. I don't know if you can get 25 decks in here though. It's 10. Hmm. 15. 27. Yeah. So you can get this one. You just gotta make sure you pick up all the dex nodes to make sure. So you theoretically should have enough to get that, and then would you want armor or 10% damage? I would say this one because your bonus is another 10% damage. And now you get access to a legendary node. And aren't we doing anything? Blood orbs. I don't think you're doing much with overpower damage. Hitting enemies with bone skills increases your damage by 1% and your maximum essence by 3 for 8 seconds, stacks up to 7.5%. Increased damage and 22.5 maximum essence. That one looks like it could be a good first one to use. Then you get a second square, and then your legendary nodes all the way up here. But you can rotate the board if you don't like where it's at. And then you need to look at the rare nodes to see which ones you want to go for. Obviously you want this one because it's critical strike chance with bone skills. And since you're going with, bone skills, that's what you want. So we'll work our way over there. Then, like I said before, you get the bonus, which this one requires dex and willpower, but by the time you finish the Paragon board plus your gear, you're more than likely going to have enough for the bonus. Let's see. Maximum essence and essence on kill would actually be pretty decent because it'll allow you just to, especially on trash mobs, if you're able to just one-shot them, you get part of your essence back. Oh, that don't surprise me. I know there are a few streamers that I've been watching who said they played it and they were a little upset that they couldn't compete for the name on the statue, but they agreed that it was fair. I mean, no different than what PoE does for their betas that people get in. If you participate in the beta, it locks you out of competing in the race. It's kind of like, on one of their interviews they did, a lot of the questions they were asked, if from so-and-so on YouTube or so-and-so on Twitch, you can go look at that account and there's not even a username by that, it's not even a person that has that username on that platform. Like they're making up people to ask these questions to keep actual people from having the ability to ask questions. It's weird. More critical. Oh, bone skill damage. Yeah, it's weird on how they're doing that stuff. We're gonna go. Yeah, this is what I was saying. No one's Paragon board is going to be exactly the same because you can customize it. It looks that way. I mean,
and listen.
it looks that way. Like, people's not going to realize that some of them questions were asked by their own people with a username that no one is using. Let's see. That's just life and armor, which I'm right there with you. I mean, I may have joined the military and did 10 years in the army, but that doesn't mean I'm completely dumb. Unless you're having a resistance issue, I don't think you need to go for these nodes. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm gonna go up for these and this glyph. See, this one requires willpower. And 25. And might be one you don't. I don't know. I'm not gonna go for the glyph. Shadow damage. This one I think would be decent because your golem is set to I want to say yeah. Your golem, yeah, it sheds a corpse every 20% of its maximum life, so we'll go for that one. Now, would you want to do more damage to healthy mobs or more damage to injured mobs? I would say more to injured. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Oh, you're tanking World of Tanks? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I need to get a new flag for the house. I haven't had one open in a few years. Intelligence. There. Good on doing this. I'll pull up another build and compare their Paragon board just to see how mine did compared to someone else's. Oh, I didn't see that golem one in there. It's willpower though. I don't know if there's willpower here. There's 5, 10, 15. 20. 25. Got that one. I don't think you need that. I'll grab an additional. Oh, wait.
Stay a while and listen.
Gets more damage to injured enemies would be nice. It's actually a lot of extra damage to injured enemies. And there, that gives you some more damage reduction. I think we're gonna go for some. Well, that's healthy. We don't really need to. Yeah, we'll just go to another board. We'll go for the Golem legendary, and that might be one worth doing sooner. I didn't see it a while ago. Look and see. Golem armor. I don't think you're too worried about your Golem having extra armor and resistance. Golem damage. You're not really going for damage. The only reason why I went for this legendary node is just more life he has. Yeah. I don't know how weak the golems were in the beta, like how often you were having to resummon them. Now, but were they good on DPS? Like, would it be worth putting points in to give them more damage? Or are you just using them as like a meat shield pretty much? Which, I mean, if that's the case, you'd still want to go for the additional life, more damage they can take. But is there a way to make them tank? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm actually gonna change that. Went with corpse explosion, which is consuming corpse, so this one would be good at 40% increased damage, and it gives you more damage to injured enemies. Yeah, but with this build we went with sacrificing the these two for the additional 50% increased damage to vulnerable enemies and critical strike chance, because we went with Memento Moria Sacrificing both skeletal warriors and mages increases their sacrifice bonus by 60%. You're getting a huge critical strike boost for your bone skills doing it like that. And then just a 15% increased damage to vulnerable. This aspect that you get from campaign progress, your bone spill's primary attack makes enemies hit beyond the first vulnerable, so you're applying vulnerability on all of them. Decompose and bone spear. Corpse generator and then bone spear. Then you got your golem, corpse explosion to consume corpses for the bonuses from part of the stuff on the passive. The curse, and then bone storm for just damage reduction and a little bit of critical strike chance. And then you also got, you know, increased essence, and forge skills cost more essence but deal more damage. Like I said, I didn't do much with Necro, so I'm just the skill tree was just one I got off of Discord. You know, Paragon board is one that we've been putting together sitting here. I think this legendary node, yeah, I mean, you can put additional points into more armor and damage reduction in the Paragon tree. Like, there's a few of them in here I didn't take. Like, you can go this armor out and more life to help with, you know, not being such a big glass cannon. Go up this way for a little bit more. Oh yeah, the second beta, I played a little bit of the Necro and I didn't like it, but to be fair, I didn't really like Sork either, even though it was really OP in the first beta. Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of what I was feeling too. This would be more for like a group Necro build than a solo Necro build. If you're playing by yourself, you want the minions, like you said, you want the minions to pretty much tank for you. But this would be a great, like, group build because, you know, like I said, you're a glass cannon, so you can just sit back and just DPS. I don't think we need to go for healing over time. There's plenty of resistance nodes in here, so if like you're having trouble getting resist cap, I mean, that's true. I mean, we only got to see the level 25. Oh, there you go. Lucky hit, up to 5% chance to execute, so you get 15%. 25 and another 10. We're gonna go for that. I think that would be a smart move. More poison resist for Ashava. Which, you know, we got the other world bosses too, so, which I'm looking forward to. I still have not seen any kind of confirmation on how they're going to do the world bosses like in the actual game. I know the beta, they were, you know, on a timer or at certain times on the first beta, second beta on a timer every 3 hours. But I've never seen anything as far as to how it's going to be on the actual launch. Like, I don't know if they're gonna do it kind of like WoW does with like their rare spawns and just have it at like a random timer. I don't want to go for the 16% damage to elites and another 16 if you get the dex. I think this would be a nice one to get. And I think we have enough decks over here to get one of these. %50 bonus to all rare nodes within range. Oh. There are no rare nodes within range. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because with the barb build, I mean, I'm gonna be using a shout to have them target me, and I'm gonna be doing like I'll show it to you off stream. Like I'll share it with you before the game comes out. But like so much damage reduction because of all the nodes that I took. Where if mobs are bleeding, I get it's gonna be every day, Monday through Friday. And on occasion on the weekends, especially when D4 finally does come out. Here lately, I've been streaming Star Wars: Old Republic, but the main focus is going to be Diablo IV. I haven't got a schedule up yet because with it being summer and my oldest daughter's doing physical therapy from a leg surgery she had. I'm waiting. I'm kind of playing it by ear to see, you know, how often I'll be available and what times, but I know for sure in the afternoons after I want to say 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, however late I stream every day, Monday through Friday. Did that remove that from down here? Okay, so it swapped them around. That might actually work better though, because this actually has a rare node, so that one gets 50% bonus to the 10% damage. So this one work better up here. So we need dex. Yeah, I'll make a schedule and have it posted relatively soon. None of them were decks. Why am I clicking on them? There's not enough decks up here. I gotta go for an intelligence one. $15. I don't have enough for a 40 intelligent one. This is where I gotta figure out how to do.
Correct your posture.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm so used to my old chair that I still slouch even though I got this nice comfy one nice and comfy My phone hates me. I'm trying to turn my lights back to their right color. There we go. I actually forgot I had this. I know that's weird to forget because I just unboxed it days ago. Those of y'all who haven't seen these. Before you do that one too, I'll just go ahead and I'll beat you to it. I don't know if that one even works or not though. But yeah, I'm not too sure on these rare nodes. Like, oh, okay. So they're not. It's not showing the actual. you used them. You've used them all up. There's more in there. Oh, I know the feeling. I'm broke because of what I'm sitting on. Like I've been saving up for a new chair, and then they came out with this one, and I had to couldn't resist it. These are all intelligent. Uh, and then I want to go for the lucky the lucky hit to execute injured non-elites. You got remember it's non-elites, so it's like trash mobs, but if you're able to just execute trash mobs, that'd be nice. Now, is decompose considered shadow damage? That actually wouldn't be that bad, I don't think. I think it's the only one that really makes sense though to use that's left. I mean, really, you don't have to use, like, you can use any of these. It changes the board too, so you may not even use a legendary node and just use a board for the blues and yellows that are on it. Like this one's minion damage, so for this build, it's kind of pointless. And then this one's more like overpower and healing, it looks like. And then increased damage after picking up a blood orb, which I don't know if you're not really generating blood orbs that much, so. And I don't know if you're getting fortified. But damage while you're healthy, as long as you have someone like this is supposed to be for a group, a duo, or a group. So if you're got a barb that's always taunting them off of you, you're always healthy. So that's a good chunk of extra damage. One we've already looked at. The tree is the same for all of them, no matter where they're at in the board. If you were to swap this legendary power out with one of the other ones, the tree would be this tree. You can just rotate it. So the trees are static; they're not random, which is good, I guess. I guess since you're going with this one, we have decompose. We could go with this one for the additional shadow damage and the shadow damage over time. Does that apply a dot? No. That one wouldn't be any good because you're not going to benefit from the damage reduction because they're not getting a dot. And that legendary power is useless because, again, you're not giving them a dot. But you can do this. Go for the additional shadow damage. Look at this glyph. And then you can go up here and just go to another board. I got 21 points left. Are any of these skills giving fortify? I don't think this build has any form of generating fortify. Maybe a legendary aspect. Barrier. Barrier. Oh, I guess if you consume a corpse, you are generating blood orbs, so I forgot about that. Okay, so yeah, there's no fortified generation, but now that I've reread that and know that you are generating blood orbs, we can rotate this. I don't think you need to overpower. Actually, rotate this one more time. Overpower, dexterity, blood orb, and then don't know if we can make it over there. I mean, getting that glyph's kind of pointless because you can't put very many nodes in around it. Getting that one would be nice, but I have to reroute. One point remaining. Or just give you a little bit more intelligence, make you a little bit smarter. So, what I need to do now is just find a build that someone's put together that actually has a Paragon board. But it also needs to be it's just literally a Paragon board. There's no skill tree, so I'd say we need to find someone who did a bone build and compare to what I just did. But I think this would be decent for group play, you know, duo, full group. In game, I mean, we've never played any of it, so it could be viable. You never know. Never. I'm gonna label it as group play just because I feel like this would be better in a group than solo with some of the changes I made in it. Oh yeah, I mean, either way it's gonna be fun. Man, that's the whole point of the game. Just have fun, play it how you want. Like, the only thing I really wanted to do was give myself a goal of what gear to get and like where to go on the skill tree for my barb, and then a guide on what I kind of want to do for my Paragon build or Paragon points and all that. But it's not like it's something you like, oh, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. Every build's viable. I mean, to a certain extent, you know, obviously, but let's see, one second. Yeah, I was watching some videos earlier from Alec and Rax and Fujio on their opinions on some of the builds. Trying to think, it's been 3 hours. If I want to swap to Star Wars or just do a short stream tonight. You still working on a story on your character? Lucy, you did beat chapter 3. I figured you did last night. This is what I really want to do. I want to look into a druid build, but I didn't even play druid in the beta. BWA. I'm probably not going to be far behind you. I'm pretty tired myself, but like I said, I'll be on every day this week. Well, not this week. Friday is let's see. Yeah, Wednesday's my birthday, and Friday, my wife and I are leaving for my birthday and our anniversary, and then I'll be back Sunday night, and I'll be back. I might stream Sunday night, just depends on how tired I am, but I'll for sure be back Monday. So this week it'll be Monday through Thursday, and then from here on out it'll be Monday through Friday. And then an occasional weekend stream, you know. If we're not doing anything with the kids, I'll stream. I think for the druid, I'm just gonna look at the skills. I'm not even gonna look at the gear or like spirit boons. I didn't even level a druid though, to be honest, so I have no clue. Alright, good night, man. Sleep tight. What other characters you make on Star Wars? I feel like you already had. Okay, I was gonna say I feel like you already had most of the other classes except for Warrior. Hmm. You want to see what the new alerts look like? I can test them on here so you can see what they. Yeah, there. I'll show you what the new ones look like. Like, this is the new follow. We'll just do a new follow. Really stoked about them. I like it. But it's, you know, my, like I was saying, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game probably of all time. So having my alerts themed like that, and because it's for everything. It's for But that being said, I did lose. I don't know if I can do the new alerts along with what I had set up for cheers before. I don't know if it'll play both of them. Nice. Yeah, it overrides. So I'll do what I had set up for cheers and StreamerBot. I'll just move over to channel points. Not that big of a deal. Because I prefer the Final Fantasy VII themed alert menu. I mean, I own the original on Steam. I could always play it whenever I want. Which I will, probably. And I might as well stream it too. Let's see. Earth Spike. Wind Shear. I never played Druid in the beta, but I did watch a few streamers playing Druid. I don't know, either werewolf or werebear is kind of where I'm at. I mean, they may not be the best, but just no point in playing a druid if you're not going to shapeshift into one of the forms. Which should be I don't know nothing about Druid. I might look into this today, like after I get up, and then do one tonight. I think I may swap to KOTOR for an hour or two. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Because I mean, I guess I could do a sorceress build. I did play them a little bit. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go to break screen. I'll be right back.